Hey everybody. Hi. All right, so my name is Mark. They just did a good intro, that's awesome. So my agency, we work with a lot of ad agencies and a lot of design agencies and directly with the client in order to try to create new social media strategies. There's two different parts of the business. There's the strategy agency where we work on developing technical new pieces of tech for social strategy, as well as social media trackers, which deals with data and pixels and analytics and content and all that stuff. And so here we go. What makes me click? That's the name of this presentation. It kind of comes because there's a lot going on in the world of social, and I'm sure you're all aware because it's in the newspaper and it's everywhere we see it, everything that's happening with Facebook these days. And I could talk about this, I'm super passionate about it for like hours and hours and hours, but I only have 17 minutes left, so I'll do what I can in that time. All right, so Facebook changed my life. I was on stage reading my diary from when I was 15 to 16 years old to about 600 strangers in a show called Mortified, which is on Netflix. You guys can check it out. It's a really fun show. And I was up there. I don't know why I was doing the show. I just felt cathartic, and I had to do it. And for some reason, 3 days later, I got a message on Facebook, and it was from this girl who wrote to me like a diary entry, and she said, hey, I saw this guy perform and he was pretty cute, and I said I need to meet her, so I did, and then 4 years later we got married, and my wife actually had posted this. I don't know how she did it, but it was like we hadn't even walked down the aisle yet, and she had already posted that we were married. She's a super Facebook, Instagram addict, as many people are. So a little bit about my career, just so you know who's talking to you right now. The first part of my career, I spent directing and creating online content. So I worked for Hulu, MSN, Yahoo. This was some back-end stuff or some digital footage that we created for The Walking Dead, some music videos. The second part of my career, I worked at a company called Coincident, and I moved to the Bay Area and started working with technology and learning how to code and all this kind of stuff. And we created this super fan application for the TV show Glee. It was for Fox.com, and then I said to the gang and all the engineers there, what happens if we wrap this up and we put it on Facebook? Back then it was 2009, so it was kind of the beginning of people starting to do that stuff, but there wasn't a lot of it out there. So we did that. It was really great. We got 24 million views in 2 days, and was nominated for a Primetime Interactive Media Emmy Award for that. And so that's my wife and I there, maybe 2 or 3 years ago. But that was cool, and that was the moment where I said, I want to do social media for life. I love this stuff. How can we get all my friends' stuff out there and all these businesses out there? So I went ahead and started doing my own business. I only did it for about 2 months, and then Liz Wiseman, who wrote a book called Multipliers, which they use as management training and leadership in places like Google and Facebook and Twitter and Nike. She contacted me, and I started working on her social media, helping get her book sales that were starting to drop because the book had been out for so long, to get it back up. And so you can see that right here. That's what we did. As a couple of years progressed, I became her director of digital content and media, and that's when I got into all the strategy surrounding Facebook and how you can engage and do all this really neat stuff, which I'm about to talk about. So these are some of our clients right now: Star Wars, Boogie Board, Multipliers, Foundation for Puerto Rico. We just did this really cool project with some of our new technology that we worked with celebrity athletes, and Tesla and the Foundation for Puerto Rico after the storm hit in order to try to raise money for solar panels for Tesla to rebuild Puerto Rico using solar power. So that happened earlier this year, and we raised a good amount of money to do that technology. So why am I talking today? Because more and more digital designers and design agencies are in charge of social campaigns. If you're a designer, a lot of times maybe you're a graphic designer or a web developer, and suddenly your client says to you, oh, well, you created it, so go ahead and post it on Facebook. And it kind of falls in your lap, and you might know how to do it, you might love doing it, or you might hate doing it and not know what you're doing, but doing it. And I see this sort of trend happening more and more and more. I see a lot of designers starting to become really engaged with social and how to make it work right. So I just kind of wanted to get into some of this today. So it says 3 effective rules for designing social strategies. This is more like 3 pieces of advice that I have for everyone after doing this for almost 10 years now, which is so weird. So rule number 1, know how Facebook actually works. And that might kind of seem like, what? But there are all these myths that are going on, especially in this day and age with everything that's happening in the world about social, and it can look scary and evil, and you can also use it for really good and positive things. And how do you affect change? How do you affect change with your designs? And so I want to talk a little bit about some of those myths. This is the way I feel a lot of the time when I hear people talking about social, or maybe the way a news report talks about it, or maybe, just in general. A lot of times people don't understand, and why should they? It's not their business. All they know is posting and posting pictures of cool things that they do. So it's not, they don't know the details, but it's really important to know the details because it can be used as propaganda. And the more you know, the more you can understand what you're seeing, help your business, and also, not worry about some of the weird stuff that's out there. So myth number 1, people are quitting using Facebook in droves after the scandal. So I'm sure you probably talked to your friends about this. I think everyone had a conversation with someone after a lot of the news broke about Cambridge Analytics and different things. Should I quit? Are you quitting Facebook? What should we do? What happens? Well, this isn't really true. There was just a survey that came out. An average of 1.45 billion people worldwide log into Facebook daily as of May 2018. So that was after everything has been out for a while. So it's interesting. And also there was a 13% increase of users and people creating accounts. So when you're talking to your clients and you say, yes, you should use Facebook, or yes, you should use Instagram, you should, because people are still on there. And I'm going to talk about why people are still on there. So this is a true story. These are not true pictures to accompany it, but they're an illustration. When I was 18 years old, when I was turning 18, it was my birthday in high school, I decided to throw a party because my parents went out of town. So I invited a couple of friends to come over. They came over, and I said, you have to take off your shoes before you come into our house, because my mom is a real estate agent, and everything has to be clean all the time, and it's just the way she is. So they were very nice, and they took off their shoes. But what happened was, they called their friends to come over and party too. So their friends started to come over. And then those people started to call their friends, and suddenly there was what seemed like half of my school at my house, as well as somehow the rival high school at the time wound up coming to my house. So suddenly it was like all these people and all this stuff, and I was totally starting to get nervous. But people at least took their shoes off when they came inside the house. And as more people came, more shoes began to pile up. Literally, the pile looked like this. It was nuts. So what happened was I got really nervous, and don't hate me for this, but I narked on my own party. I called the cops. I said, there's just too much going on here. I can't handle it. You guys have to come and get rid of everybody. So the cops came. I lived on Macaulay Road, and I was home alone, so they called me Culkin. And they were making fun of me. A bunch of cops came. The party busted up. People ran everywhere, in the hills, outside, took off, all this stuff. And the party was over, and I was by myself, sitting there. Oh my gosh, the house is so messy. Everything is messed up. What do I do? And then I looked in the corner, and I saw the shoes. And I thought about it, and then suddenly the doorbell rang, and then people started showing back up again because they needed their shoes, and then the party was back on. So, this last weekend, and why I bring this up is because this last weekend we had a family event, and my wife overheard someone saying, I feel strange using Facebook, but I do it anyway because my family is on it. And when people are somewhere, or shoes are somewhere, if there's a reason for coming back and going there, if it's the status quo, if nobody really leaves or does anything, then it will just continue to go. People will forget about it. We live ADD lives. That's what social media is. It's for an ADD world. And so people will come back, at least for now. There'll be something down the road, but it's really interesting. That's why families do communicate with each other, and friends, and everybody's there, and businesses. They all have Facebook on their website. So myth number 2, I don't use Facebook anymore. I only use Instagram. So this might make some people laugh. Some people might not know this, but this is how I feel when I hear that, just because Facebook owns Instagram, and so they basically use the same data, same targeting tools. You can just target Instagram, you can just target Facebook, or you can use your Facebook data to target your people on Instagram, and you can do all sorts of cool strategies and all that stuff. So next time someone says, well, I only use Instagram because of everything that's going on with Facebook, you can say, oh, cool. So myth number 3, everyone who likes your page will see the content that you post. And this is ever-changing, but when I hear this, I feel like the little kid in the orange shirt right there, and the guy in the middle is my clients a lot of the time, because they think that just because you post something, like the world's going to see it. Facebook made a change to their algorithm recently. So a year ago, I gave a talk here at VMA, and I spoke about how if you post something on Facebook, all the people who like your page, only 2 to 4% of those people will see it organically. Facebook does that on purpose because they want people to spend money on ads, and that's how their platform works. And that's okay. Like, I'm okay with that. Everybody needs ads. They need to figure out how their business works. But this is really interesting, especially for designers, because now the only people who will see your business page posts, not your personal, isn't the same as personal, but any sort of page that you have for a business, for your clients or for yourself, the only people who will see your posts are people who engage with you. It's kind of a catch-22. So, what this means though is that, so you may have heard complaints and conspiracy theories about this. So a lot of people, they say that, when it comes to content, I used to have all these people here and they would all see my content all the time, and now they're not seeing it, and Facebook they're not letting my voice get through. And who knows, some of that might be true, I don't know, but what I do know is that it all coincides, if you look at some of the complaining, with the changes to the algorithm, and they just don't know how to change it so that people do see their content. There's a really great reason for the reason why Facebook did this, and here's why this change is genius and empowers designers and users and cuts all the crap out of the way. The reason is that it's the Darwinism of design in a sea of social. There's so much stuff out there. There's so much content just pouring in you all the time. If there was tons of ads and everything you liked on Facebook was in your stream, this would turn into MySpace, and then people would just stop using it. They're afraid of that. They don't want that to happen. They also want the really good designs that people are engaging with and talking to show up. And so if you're good at design and you create some really wonderful content that gets people engaged, you have a way better chance of getting your stuff out there than all the clickbait that's out there. People still design it, but they're trying to kind of phase all that stuff out. So it's better user experience for everyone. And we did this is with the right strategy, you can actually reach more people this way. Because instead of limiting it to 2 to 4% of the people organically see your posts, now, if you're able to reach your entire audience and there's 1 million people that look at your stuff and you make great content and they click on it, you can reach 1 million people for like 3 weeks. They'll see your content because they've engaged with you. And engage is them searching or clicking or watching a video or anything like that. So it can actually help you in the long run. This is Apollo Ono, worked with him on a project. We did something where he had 208,000 followers, and an average down there at the bottom, 18 people a day engaging with his posts organically. they were not great posts. It just wasn't good stuff. So we figured out a little bit more about his audience, and we created posts tailored for them. People started to engage more. And what we did, this is a great strategy for you guys if you need it, we targeted all the people who followed him with a paid ad, with the really good content. And we sent it out to them. And then people looked at it and they saw it and they all liked it and clicked on it. And then suddenly he had a whole lot more people seeing his stuff. And you don't have to pay for it after that. They clicked on it, they engaged. So for the next 3 weeks, if he's putting out content and it is engaging, people will continue to see it and continue to click. And so it brought him up for an average of 42 people a day. And this was like 5 or 6 days later, or 2 weeks later, he was getting 42 people a day organically seeing his stuff. So I call it the jump start, and it's something that you guys can do. And I have only 2 minutes left, so unfortunately I can't get into all this stuff. I will kind of pass through this, but this is, if you walk away with anything today, it's this. Don't design social media posts as an afterthought. Why do companies wait until the launch of their products or the website or videos or event to design an ad? At that point, you can't figure out who your audience is. You can't, there's so much that you need to do in order for your campaign to really work. And it's the difference between knowing your audience versus discovering your audience. And what I mean is this. How will people react? What colors does your audience respond to? Will your audience engage more with laughter in your posts and humor, or inspiration, or anger? Or does your audience need to be empathized with, or motivated? And where is your target audience? You know, are they in the city, or are they in the suburbs, or the country? Or are they in all three? And how do you create content for people in those different places? Because the more personal the content is, the more people engage with it. An example of that is Star Wars, and I wish I could play the movie for you guys, but we don't have time. And this is another movie. There was 2 different commercials. One was a little bit more raw, which we took all different YouTube videos, cut them up, and made an unboxing video for the drone that you saw earlier. The other one was with all the research that was collected from other companies, not from Facebook. This was using the data we got from Facebook. The other video was more retro, get in touch with the 45-year-old that wants to be a kid again, that kind of a feel. So between the 2 ads that we ran, using the one with the Facebook data, the one that was more raw and gritty, that was the one that got the biggest impact. So this is all the sales. For an example, the little bumps you see at the beginning, those were sales using the video that was well produced, and we got research from Disney and all these places. Those 2 big spikes that come up next, those are from using the raw video that we created from the data that we collected. And then we launched it on March 31st, and we took the sales of the drone from about $1,000 a day to a whole lot more. And yeah, I think it was in 6 days or 7 days, we brought in $104,000 in sales from Facebook ads, and we spent $16,000 Facebook ads. So it's amazing what you can do with audience development. It's the difference between knowing your audience versus discovering your audience, and then also this, your audience knowing your brand versus your audience discovering your brand. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to get to those slides another time because I'm out of time. But if you want to learn more or talk to me or whatever, Mark at socialmediatrackers.com. I'd love to talk to any of you guys about this. Last thing, rule number 3, before you post, take a minute to ask yourself, if I saw this post in my newsfeed, would I actually click on it? And if the answer is no, don't bother. So thanks guys, appreciate it.